Even now, when I think back, it's not the endless lines of fire I remember most clearly. It's not the exhaustion or the destruction. It's that moment by the blackened tree, a bottle of water in my hand, and a koala holding on to hope. That memory has stayed with me, shaping the way I look at my work, at the world, at the fragile balance we all live in. And whenever the job gets heavy, whenever the weight of it threatens to drag me down, I think of her. I think of her eyes clearing, her body leaning into mine, and I find the strength to keep going. Because sometimes all it takes is one small act, a sip of water, a gentle hand, to make the difference between despair and survival. And that's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. I remember that day like it's etched into my bones, and even though years have passed since the fires tore across Australia, there are moments that still feel like they happened this morning. When I close my eyes, I can smell the smoke, that acrid thick wall of it that clung to everything, turning the sky into an unnatural orange haze. It was one of those days where you just keep moving, because if you stop, if you think too much, the weight of it all can crush you. I had been on the line for hours already, soaked in sweat, throat dry, gear caked in ash. The radios were alive with frantic voices, fire crews being shuffled here and there, and in between the calls, you could hear the crackling of the fire like it was whispering in your ear, reminding you it was everywhere. We were trying to cut off one of the smaller fronts before it merged with a larger blaze. The winds were unpredictable that week, changing direction on us without warning, making every plan feel like a gamble. Every few minutes we'd stop, drink a quick sip of warm water, check our lines, and move forward. There was no room for thinking about comfort, only survival and duty. And in that chaos, in that rolling hell of heat and noise, I saw something that would change me forever. I caught sight of a shape against a tree. At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, like seeing figures in the smoke. But as I stepped closer, I realized it wasn't my imagination. There, clutching the blackened bark of a scorched eucalyptus tree, was a koala. She was sitting low, not trying to escape, not moving at all, just holding on with everything she had left. Her fur was singed in places, her ears drooping, and her eyes, man, those eyes wide and glassy with a kind of exhausted fear. It hit me in the chest like nothing else had during those fires. I stopped for a second, which you're not really supposed to do in a fire zone, but I couldn't just pass by. I looked around, called out quickly to my crew that I'd catch up, and moved toward her. The heat around the tree was unbearable, but somehow she had stayed there, surviving God knows how long. My first instinct was to get her down from that tree, but I had to be careful. Koalas can be unpredictable, especially when they're stressed or injured, and the last thing I wanted was to scare her into running toward danger. So I crouched down a bit, tried to make myself smaller, and slowly extended my gloved hand, speaking softly like I was trying to calm a child. "Hey, there, it's okay, you're all right, I'm here to help." She didn't move at first, just blinked, slowly. I could see her chest rising and falling in shallow breaths, and I realized how close she was to just giving up. That did something to me. I wasn't going to let this little life slip away, if I could help it. I took my water bottle from my belt. It was dented, scratched, half empty, but it was the only thing I had. I opened the cap and tilted it toward her, letting a small stream run down the side, so she could smell it, see it. For a long second, nothing happened. Then, slowly, she shifted, releasing one paw from the tree. She reached out, almost hesitant, like she wasn't sure she could trust what was in front of her. But the moment that first drop touched her nose, it was like something lit up inside her. She leaned forward and started lapping at the water. I tilted the bottle carefully, letting her drink. Her claws brushed against my glove, and I remember how hot her body felt, like she had been baked by the heat of the fire itself. She drank with this desperate urgency, water dripping down her chin, her whole body shaking slightly as she took in each gulp. And me, I just held the bottle and kept talking to her, telling her it was going to be okay, even though I didn't fully know if that was true. It felt like time had stopped for those few minutes. The world around us was still burning, radios still squawking, but there, in that small bubble of space, it was just me and her. A firefighter and a koala. connected by this simple, basic act of survival. When she finally slowed down, I saw her eyes change a little. They weren't as dull, not as glassy. She blinked at me again, and I swear it felt like she was thanking me in her own way. I knew I couldn't just leave her there. She wouldn't survive the night if I did, so I carefully reached around her, sliding one arm under her body. She didn't fight. She didn't claw or squirm. She just let me lift her up, pressing against my chest like she knew I was her only chance. I held her tight, shielding her from the heat as best I could, and started making my way back toward the staging area where the rescue teams had set up. Walking out of the fire line with a koala in my arms felt surreal. My crew saw me coming, and for a moment everyone just stopped, their faces softening despite the chaos around us. One of the wildlife rescue volunteers came running as soon as they spotted her. We quickly transferred her into their care, wrapping her in a soft blanket. I gave them the short version of what had happened, then stood there for a moment, watching as they loaded her into their vehicle. She looked back at me once, eyes half closed, before curling into the blanket. That image has never left me. Over the next few weeks, I checked in whenever I could. Between shifts, when the fires allowed us a breath, I'd call the wildlife shelter that had taken her in. They told me she was badly dehydrated, had minor burns on her paws and ears, but she was strong. Stronger than anyone expected. They treated her wounds, fed her properly, gave her the safety and care she needed. And she recovered. Slowly, but she did. The day they told me she was climbing again, back to her old self, I sat in the cab of my truck and just let the relief wash over me. It was one small victory in a time when we lost so much. That whole experience taught me something about resilience. Here was this little creature, caught in one of the worst disasters nature can unleash, and yet she held on. She waited. She trusted when someone finally came to help. And in a way, she reminded me why we do what we do. Firefighting isn't just about saving property or stopping flames. It's about protecting life, any life, human or animal, that gets caught in the path of destruction. Even now, when I think back, it's not the endless lines of fire I remember most clearly. It's not the exhaustion or the destruction. It's that moment by the blackened tree, a bottle of water in my hand, and a koala holding on to hope. That memory has stayed with me, shaping the way I look at my work, at the world, at the fragile balance we all live in. And whenever the job gets heavy, whenever the weight of it threatens to drag me down, I think of her. I think of her eyes clearing, her body leaning into mine, and I find the strength to keep going. Because sometimes all it takes is one small act, a sip of water, a gentle hand, to make the difference between despair and survival. And that's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.